There are over 7 billion people on Earth, each with their own unique story. That's over 7 billion stories of life. We want to highlight the lives of those without a platform, where Grandma's legendary stories can be shared with the world and stored forever. Capsule, the faces unseen, the stories untold.
Yes, I was the youngest of 5 children in the Dutko family. I had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Okay? I am the only one left now at age 90, as I told you before. I think I could have about another 10, 12 more good years. Yeah. A lot of things I want to do yet.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to get over what I have and shake it pretty darn soon. I'm working harder and harder on it every day of the week.
I love it.
And it's going to be more than luck when it happens. The name of the town I was born in was Duryea, which is 8 miles south of Scranton, Pennsylvania,
Nice.
where, of course, our new president was born.
Yeah.
It had this, well, as my daughter said when she was up there visiting, Granddaddy, I want to thank you very much for not living here.
For not raising me here in
coal,
Scranton.
Yeah.
Coal mine.
It was a coal mining town.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
So did your family work in the or were they connected to the coal mines? Did mom or dad work in the coal mines?
My dad did, but mostly weren't in the breakers. You know what the breaker is?
No, what's the breakers?
It's like a big building you would see. And what it is where when they mine for coal, they have big chunks of coal and so forth and put it in the carts. And they put it up. And then it has to go into the breaker and be sized.
Broken apart.
Yeah, it goes through the thing. Yeah. I graduated in 1948. And I was the treasurer of my class.
Okay.
And I said, what better thing than getting the Coast Guard? Because they're still with the Treasury Department.
Yeah, right.
And I said, so I stuck with the Coast Guard. And then after I got discharged, I looked for another position, and I wound up finally with U.S. Customs, and went through the whole thing with them. Also, with the Treasury Department.
You stayed with your little team, right?
So I did the whole thing with the Treasury Department.
We keep it there where it's supposed to be.
We met the night.
Tell it like it is.
We met the night after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
My mother let me use the car, and I had 2 girlfriends and my sister, and we were going downtown Memphis to the movies. And we came to a railroad track, and we had to stop because there was a train on that, switching tracks. And I don't know if you've ever been there when a train was switching tracks, but it takes a long time. And sitting next to us was a car full of Coast Guard sailors. And they put their windows down. Now it's in late November, and it was not warm outside.
What kind of cars you were in? Do you remember?
It must have been my mother's old 1936 Chevrolet. The doors open from the front. They didn't open from the back. they opened this way.
Do you remember what kind of car you were in?
They're called suicide doors.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right. Do you remember what kind of car you were in?
It wasn't his car.
I had a 41 Chrysler Windsor.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Weren't you in your friend's car that night?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
So you're both stopped at a railroad track.
Yes, and they put the window down and started flirting with us, and we put the window down and started flirting back. Then we got tired of sitting, so we all got out of the cars and we stood. They got out of this side and we got out of this side, and we were all in a group there. We stood there so long, I think we exchanged phone numbers and everything. And then they said when they were getting ready for the train to, I think we were there at least half an hour. We told them we were going to the movies, and they said, I don't go to the movies. So down the street was a drive-in restaurant. So we decided we'll all go there. So we all went there and we hung out. And it wasn't long until somebody came up with the bright idea to take, those four guys decided they wanted to take us four girls down to the foot of Beale Street and Riverside Drive, where his Coast Guard cutter was tied up. And
The
so
same night? This is after the drive-in?
after the drive-in, we left the drive-in, and they said they were gonna take us for a tour on the White Pine. That's the name of the Coast Guard cutter they were stationed on.
Look at that.
So we went down there, and it was so dark. Oh my God, it was so dark. I couldn't believe we were doing this. And so we got out of the car and we went across that gangplank, and I thought I was going to fall in the Mississippi River. And we got on there. There were little narrow passages like this for us to walk through. And I kept thinking, oh my God, we're going to get raped on here for sure. Well, we followed them and we wound up on the brig. So that was like out in the open, but it was still black, pitch black out there. And then he took us to the, I don't know what you call it, where you actually steer the boat.
The bridge.
The bridge. That's where I was. I thought that's what it was, but I didn't know that's what. Anyway, we were all having a really good time, and he was standing over there, and I was standing over here, and I looked. Oh my God, he had the most beautiful eyes I had ever seen in my life. Actually, I don't know if anybody remembers Tony Curtis. He was a movie actor, and he looked exactly like Tony Curtis, just a shorter version.
But no one really knew what Tony Curtis was hiding.
And
Quality.
we were having
Not quantity.
we were having telephone issues at our house.
Okay.
We could call out, but no calls were coming in.
How old are you at this time?
I was 16.
16.
We had, and so he asked for my phone number, and he was going to call me, and I didn't hear from him for 2 or 3 days. And so I said, oh, Gus, I'll never hear from him. He just asked for my phone number to make me think he was going to call me. But he was trying to call me, and he couldn't. I knew the phone was not working. And so I kept hoping that was the reason I wasn't hearing from him. And sure enough, first of the week I heard from him, and he asked me to go to the movies. So that
Were you calling her? Do you remember? Were you calling her during that time? Was her phone not working?
Were you calling me when my phone wasn't working?
Yeah.
And did you just decide to show up then?
Yeah.
No, he didn't. He finally got me on the phone.
Okay.
And we decided we were going to the movies on Saturday night. That was our first date. Well, when Saturday night came, they were going to have an inspection on the Coast Guard cutter. And they were not supposed to have any personal items on the cutter. They were supposed to have uniforms and just what they needed to do their daily jobs. He had all of his clothes on because he was somebody special. And he kept everybody else's clothes too.
Yeah.
So he piles them all in the car, and we go to the movies with a car full of clothes in the back. And when we came out of the movies, there were no clothes in the car. All of his clothes and some of his buddies' clothes had been stolen out of his car.
No way. On the first date.
That was our first date.
Oh my goodness.
She came in see me. She would come every night after work.
I'd go home
Like
first and see the baby.
Like clockwork. And came in that night and said, there's something going on at the rec hall. there's a group, going right down right down on the right now. Said, "You want to go out?" I said, "Yeah, okay." So I was in a wheelchair anyway. So she pushed me down to the thing, and there were 3 guys on stage. 2 guys had guitars, and 1 guy had a bass. And only the 1 guy that had the guitar he would sing too. And I'm trying to think of what the guy's name was. I think he had a first name like Elvis. What would go with Elvis? Do you think anything would go with Elvis? What would it be, dear?
Tell
Elvis Presley. He had a gig at the Silver Slipper on Summer Avenue, and they conned him into doing a thing for the vets. So he promptly grabbed the opportunity and went out there and entertained the vets.
Oh, he was in the wheelchair, and I had to get him situated with the wheelchair. We were late getting there. They were already up on the stage performing. And he was in the wheelchair, and I had to get him situated. And then I had to get where I could sit with him, and then I had to get into my seat. Well, by the time I got into my seat, Elvis was in the middle of a demonstration. I couldn't even look. It was you never saw anything like that in your life. That was before rock and roll. That was before anything like that. You just did not get up on stage and do that. And he said to me, as soon as I sat down, I was hiding my face, and he said, "Take me back to the ward. This guy's never going to leave the city of Memphis." So I got him up.
He didn't. He wound up owning it, but
he never left it. Yeah, and you always resented him, right? You never liked him, right? And of course, your son did, right? Michael became a big fan, right?
Oh, at the age of 2, Michael had a little toy guitar, and that leg would go, man. He loved. And then we took him to see Jailhouse Rock. And Elvis died, and that poor child cried for 3 days. Elvis Presley died. Elvis Presley died.